Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first Breakthrough Life Coaching session. And I'm really excited to introduce Josh Roche today, who's joining us. Josh is one of our amazing trainers. He also does a wonderful mindfulness course. If you haven't done it, I would really urge you to look into that. And he's going to be sharing with us today a little bit about his story, and at the end we might do a little meditation. So I'm really looking forward to getting into having this conversation. And welcome, Josh.
Of course, a real pleasure, and I can see some familiar faces. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's well. How you doing?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Cool.
So to get started, I remember really fondly the mindfulness course that I did with you a wee while ago now, or probably about 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah, already, right?
Exactly. And one of the things that really stood out to me was just your story and how you have done so many kind of interesting and adventurous things that, you know, we were all wide-eyed looking at you and thinking, oh my gosh, how does someone go from jumping out of a plane to becoming a monk to going on silent retreats? So it just kind of blew my mind. So
Right.
I wonder if you would just share a little bit of that story and how you came to life coaching, but also to, I guess, your love of mindfulness.
Sure, Sarah. Thank you. Thanks for organizing this too, putting it all on. So I really appreciate it. Um, so the short answer to that stuff really is just for whatever reason, there was always a fascination with the mind and the body and how they work together and how you can over time kind of really create a strong connection between those two parts of ourselves. And I suppose it really started early. I was really into BMX when it first came out long ago in the 1980s, the
I
before
was into
time.
BMX too. I was in a BMX gang.
Right. Yeah, same as me. And I was fascinated with the ability to just like any sport, any sport, there's a sort of flow state that goes on and the blood chemistry shifts, and there's a sort of compelling, it's very attractive, very compelling. And I was just fascinated by how my body functioned and how I performed and how I felt during racing on my bike. And that just was so fascinating to me, so interesting. And so very early on, I was reading about sports psychology and performance and that sort of stuff. Not really to be the best in anything, but just because it was interesting to me. And my mother as well. The environment I grew up in was there was Ganesh statues and Buddha heads everywhere, and the scriptures. There was the Bhagavad Gita on the bookshelf and the Buddhist scriptures, and I would just pick these things up naively as a young child and just flick through them. And the Dharma part is really well written and really easy to comprehend. So I went through the Dharma part really young, and phrases like the life follows the thoughts, like the cart follows the ox, just simple stuff like that. And I just was, that young naive 12, 13, 14-year-old mind started just working with those sort of ideas and seeing the law of attraction and seeing cause and effect and understanding how you are does, things come back to you the way you send things out. And I just had that fascination early on. And I think that just led into uh testing that mindset, if you want to call it, or testing those ideas in competition and sports and martial arts. And then it all started coalescing when I joined the military and found it really helped in those environments where the stress is on, the pressure's on, for many months on end, how to function with all of this pressure, and how to find a way to enjoy that kind of stress. Life and limb is in danger, and how to stay switched on when the body's really broken down. 6 weeks of jungle warfare training in Fiji, and yeah, the feeder raw steaks underneath, and just really gnarly physical stuff. But the mind is still functioning well and making good decisions, and that stuff just blew me away. You're supposed to, performance is supposed to decline after 2 or 3 days of no sleep, but we would find ourselves euphoric and hungry for more, which really was quite a how to put it, like a yeah, euphoric, wonderful, wonderful. And then when I left the army and went into this monk stuff, I found the same kind of classic um, psychophysical, psycho-emotional training tools that I'd already had 8, 9 years of in the army. Fasting, not eating for days on end, not sleeping for days on end. I'd already had years of that kind of practice in the military. So I very quickly went far into this monk stuff because there was no initial impact with that kind of lifestyle. A lot of my colleagues, quite rightly so, struggled for the first year or so with the lifestyle because it's demanding. But I'd already had that kind of stuff in the military and went really far with it. So mindfulness, I suppose, to be fair, has always been there. It's just hasn't been called that. So, the long answer, Sarah, is it was always going on. I was reading Gandhi, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, I was reading all these things really early. And they just started to make more and more sense as life went on. And then later on, when significant family members passed away and there was all sorts of trauma, these same things just pivoted into those areas, and I was able to really heal and understand the grief cycle and move through all sorts of pain and life stuff, right, that happens to us all, with a measure of, I don't know if protection's the right word, but yeah, I wasn't overly impacted, perhaps you could put it that way, by all of those things that can happen in life because of the ability to watch the thoughts and to observe my feelings and not be swept away by them constantly, and to get out of my own way when I'm whatever leveling up with work or
yeah. It's almost like there's this kind of golden thread running through your life, right?
Yeah.
From the very beginning, and being brought up by your mum and having
Mhm.
all of those ideas around you, almost like you kind of like percolated in those ideas
Yeah,
through
right.
your life.
Yeah.
And I remember one story that you told on that mindfulness courses, a kind of life and death situation for you, and how that mindfulness kind of, even though I don't even if you called it then, but
Yeah.
that attention to one thought at a time
Right.
and slowing down everything
Yeah.
helped you in that moment and after that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the parachute thing you're talking about,
Mm.
Sarah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. If some of us haven't heard that story, jumped out of a Hercules parachuting in the army, and was very exhausted. It's a full-on course, and we didn't have good weather for 2 of the 4 weeks, so we had to do 4 weeks worth of military parachuting in 2 weeks. So they thrashed us because we had good weather. So up at 4, on the plane at 5, 4 or 5 jumps before lunch, 4 or 5 jumps before dinner, and then we do all the night jumps until 12 or 1 in the morning. And this was the last jump of that day of 14 just crazy 18, 20-hour days of military parachuting, really tired, and had a soft exit. The exit speed, the slipstream speed of a Hercules at a parachute jump is about 320 k's an hour. So you put your hand out of a car window at 50 k's an hour, it's pretty strong, and 100 k's is pretty strong, but 320 k's an hour of, you got to penetrate that slipstream. You've got to really drive yourself out of the aircraft. And I was aware of all that, but I was just tired, really tired. We were all stressed out. It's a gnarly course, and the potential to have career-ending injuries is there every single jump. And 3 dudes did. One guy broke his pelvis, completely smashed his lower back in, compacted his lower lumbar was completely compacted. I was right next to him when that happened. So to hear the pain and the screams of that guy, it's like, wow, this is serious business. So we're all stressed and we're all tired. And I leave the plane, I leave my elbow out, and I catch the slipstream with my elbow, and I spiral down the fuselage, caught my foot on the fuselage, was uninjured from that, but ended up with these wicked line twists. The canopy was, instead of this massive, beautiful 9-meter canopy above your head, I had like, I don't know, maybe a meter or something like that. So it wasn't slowing me down at all. So I was accelerating downwards. And yeah, to your point, Sarah, I just um, an enormous dump of adrenaline first off. So that really got in the way of clear thinking. Adrenaline really closes the higher mind function down. You lose the prefrontal cortex. You go to the amygdala. It's all about survival. Decision making is really impaired. And so I had to first of all, I had to manage this adrenaline surge, which took the mindfulness piece there, just observe, don't act on it. That took a second or two to get over that. And meanwhile, I'm accelerating down towards the earth. I look up and I see my friends' parachutes opening. I can see them against the stars, the silhouettes of their parachutes, and yeah. So I remember taking a breath. I gave myself time to take a breath while I'm plummeting. This is low level too. This is 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet off the ground. This isn't a high free fall thing. This is an ultra low level. Get on the ground as fast as possible and get to work. So yeah, I managed to pull these things apart. They're called lift webs that the lines are connected to the parachute with. Pulled these things apart and was kicking out and slowly unwound the twists. And I remember as this thing opened above my head, I automatically, because of the training, counted 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and wham, hit the deck. So I was three seconds away. So I got this thing open with 3 seconds to spare. So it was a pretty wild ride, that's for sure. Massive impact, knocked the wind out of me. I'm gasping on the ground. But yeah, to back to the mind, that the whole thing was a success because of that ability to step outside of the psychophysical drama my body was generating and find in the darkness and in the speed and the sound of the wind going past my ears, find a good solution to the problem I was in. And that really, I mean, that was another sort of pivotal moment. Was wow, the processing speed of the mind when it's not making a drama about something. That really blew me away. Like all of the information that was coming into my mind, I just took a breath and I was like, what's the best solution? And I teach that on the mindfulness course. What's the best response for the environment I'm in now? I've got to find a way to undo these line twists. I don't have time to pull my reserve canopy. What's the best way? And I could perceive above me that they were twisted anti-clockwise. So I just need to, it's line twists aren't a big deal. You just kick out of them, but it's pretty intense when you do the low level stuff. So I didn't have much time. But yeah, just to your point, that was what blew me away with that experience was, and I mention it a lot on the mindfulness courses, when you're meditating daily and when you're getting out of your own story constantly, that subconscious mind comes more to the surface. It's allowed its place. Whereas generally speaking, throughout the day, we're conscious mind. We're doing all of our robot to-do lists and now all these sorts of things, and the conscious mind is very much to the fore. But during those kinds of moments, and if you train the subconscious mind to allow it to have its place when you want it to, that data processing speed is online when you need it. And I find that's a lot less of a stressful place to work from, just generally. Meditating every day, you're constantly tapping into that. So very powerful, very powerful.
And so that you've kind of alluded to the fact that you have that mindfulness practice every day now, that meditation. And yeah. Is that something you do every morning? Is it like, tell us like your routine of how
sure so
train your brain that way?
Yeah, of course. I've got a 4-year-old in the house right now, so the morning meditation is gone unless I want to wake up really early. But it's an evening thing now, and it's at least 30 minutes, usually 60 minutes in one block. And I often do the power word thing. Just really where that comes in is less to do with the personal thing, more to do with professional stuff. So Sara and I were just chatting. I've just been moving a part of my time into outdoor instruction up here in Auckland, taking teenagers into the wilderness to teach them life skills and bushcraft and that sort of stuff. So the mind is quite busy, upskilling and being tested and sea kayaking and all this sort of stuff, which I love. So my practice these days is probably 90% the first practice that we learn on the mindfulness course, which is just the breathing and the counting, right? Just very calm and very soothing, no complexity. very nutritious for the mind. There's no effort at all. And then probably 10% of the time I'm generating kind of qualities I need to express in the outside world. So that's kind of where my practice is now. And it really is, if it's the center of the wheel of my life, like if you wanted to put it that way. If I'm not meditating, I'm accruing or yeah, I'm accruing micro stress, and I'm not out processing it, and that accumulates, and then I get more stressed, and then things start to become overly complicated in my mind. And then I realize, my goodness, I've been away, I haven't been able to meditate, whatever it is. I'm away with a group of kids, they need care, whatever it is, for many hours a day, so I just go straight to sleep. But if I meditate, then everything is easy, like it's night and day. If I'm meditating, there's a lot of ease to the rest of the day. So it's essential for me to manage all the crazy stuff, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you're still coaching other people and taking them through, you know, whatever they come to you for coaching with.
Sure.
How often do you include mindfulness as part of what you would suggest for them to do?
I tell you what, Sarah, it's pretty much every time, unless the person's got their own practice going. But yeah, it's always in the forefront of my mind, just because of how much it's helped me and how much it's been well received with these courses around the country, etc. So I always have that suggestion in mind when people have some kind of thing going on that's getting in the way of them. Have you thought about mindfulness? Do you meditate? Do you understand what these kinds of things are about? Would you like to have, you know, I often do session, like a life coach session, a 60 or 90-minute session during a life coach journey with someone. One of those sessions or more will be an actual nuts and bolts. This is how mindfulness works, and this is how we sit and meditate, and these are the conceptual things around power words and using visualization, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's nearly every time I work with someone, and they always, if they apply themselves, of course, and do the work over a reasonable amount of time, then yes, the brain structure starts to shift, and the effects are there for sure. Nearly everyone, well, everyone can certainly get benefit, and the people I tend to work with go for that kind of stuff and do apply themselves to it.
Is there, and I've not put you on the spot, but is there somebody, one of your clients that comes to mind that you think, wow, that really made a huge difference for that person?
Yeah, sure. There's a guy that I've worked with on and off for many years, and he was a personal training client to start with, and he weighed 220 kilograms when I started with him, and he was very much in the self doubt and the low self esteem, and his self image was really poor, and he had a very negative perspective that everyone hated him or was disgusted by him, or was, he had a very how to put it, like a toxic self-image, a toxic self-talk, and was very anti all of the people around him, including his family members. So he's making it really tough, you know, he's making it very difficult for himself. And that's one thing one of my teachers told me, was taking a physical situation and making it an emotional or mental situation as well. You add these extra layers that you don't need to do that, can torment, we can torment ourselves. And he was doing that for sure. Young guy, 20 years old, you know, he'd never come across these kinds of ideas or concepts in his family or in his wider experience. And I just did it pro bono because he couldn't afford personal training. I just started working with a really cool young guy, like, hey, come and train with me. Like, I'm training at 10 o'clock. Let's get after it. And he turned up, and we just started chatting. And I introduced him to breath work, first of all. Just through the training, through the physical stuff, it can really help you prepare for the next interval or the next workout piece. And then we just started, as he sort of understood what the relationship was and trust started building, etc. Normal life coach stuff, rapport was being built. I started talking about mindfulness and how it had helped me in the army and post military career, etc. And he was really interested, and he took the stuff on board. And I was only a small part of his weight loss journey, but he ended up getting down to 95 kilograms over 18 months, which is an enormous achievement. I mean, just what a rock star. And that wasn't the big part of it, though. The big part of it was his self-image and his self-efficacy and his self, as you can imagine. And then, long story short, he ended up living his dream last year, middle of last year. He always wanted to step into the ring as an MMA fighter and do this martial arts thing, which he did. So it was really neat to see how someone who's extremely locked into this really toxic self-image and self-talk, this narrative, just wicked stuff. Like, he wouldn't talk to anyone else like that, but he's talking like that to himself. And to see that become, over time and consistent effort, shift into this, he was just like, what is going on? I'm actually in the ring. I'm doing this thing now, which was always near. It was always only a maybe, hopefully one day. He was just like, wow, really, really powerful to see that.
That's so
Just a young
powerful.
guy. Yeah. Yes. Just a young dude.
I think it's just a lovely example of how, as life coaches, we can come in and, it may be something really small that we teach, or
Yeah,
we,
exactly. It wasn't a
explain, or
big
the
deal.
words that we use, or even a question that,
Yep.
we ask,
Right.
that has that kind of profound ripple effect. And,
Yeah.
isn't that a wonderful position to be in, that you can
Yeah.
have this amazing effect on people's lives going forward?
Yeah.
I think it's, even like sometimes when I'm feeling a bit down or a bit, I'll go through some of my old client notes, and I
Right.
just, and it's just lovely to go, oh, I remember them. That was really cool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I know, and you're right in saying just what you said previously. Um, Never underestimate a single second of a coaching session, right? Because that could be just a catalyst. You just don't know how or what's going on for them at a psycho-emotional level, and you might just drop not a flippant remark, but just a casual remark, and that might be the thing that galvanizes that person into action. You just never know. It's a good point you're making, Sarah. I love that sort of
Absolutely.
stuff.
And I think to anybody out there who is not seeing clients, see them, like, go
Yeah.
out and see them, because
Yeah.
you're depriving them at the moment of those magical moments.
True. Good point. Absolutely. That's the alchemy, right? The chemistry of coaching.
Yeah, if you're not seeing them,
Connection.
you can't create the magic. You've got to
Yeah.
have them in the room with you,
Yeah.
or on the
100%.
screen with you.
Connection. The connection is important. It really is essential for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Absolutely. The connection is so important.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's been really, really lovely hearing a bit more of your story, and I wish we had more time to kind of delve
Sure.
even deeper into that. But
Yeah. Right.
what I'd love for you to do, just to finish off with, is just take us through whatever mindfulness meditation you'd like to do for this morning, so that we can
Yeah.
carry on into our Wednesday with that lovely feeling of being, had a
Focus.
wonderful open mind.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, you got it. Just a couple of minutes, huh? Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Sure.
absolutely.
My pleasure, everyone. All right. So look, let's just get comfortable in our seats, and I'll invite you to, if you feel like it, close your eyes, and also in your own time, take 3 long, deep breaths, and really, really focus on that exhalation. So in your own time, just breathing in deeply and letting out that breath. And as you're exhaling, the facial muscles are letting go, the eyes are letting go. As we're breathing in, we're really, really pulling that breath down into the lower abdomen, the lower lungs. Exhaling, let go of the neck and throat and shoulders, chest, arms, hands, all the way down. Just really, really let the body sink into the seat or whatever it is you're sitting on. Really, really let go. Rib cage, abdomen, hips, knees, all the way down to the feet. And just slowly start letting go of the movements of the mind, the usual mental gymnastics that are going on constantly through the day. The idea is not to switch them off. It's very difficult. That's the nature of the mind, is to be active while it's awake. It's more about just getting distance from the noise that it makes. Hence the 3 long deep breaths and the emphasis on relaxation. It's accessing a different part of the mind. That's the conscious mind, very active, very task oriented, detail oriented. Good, nothing wrong with that. We need it. But while we're meditating, we're suspending the attraction, that innate attraction we have to the noise the conscious mind makes. So it's kind of like sort of pushing away or drifting away from that noise, from all of that activity the mind is making. That's why the breath is so useful. So keep that lengthening of the breath. And just gently notice any slowing and releasing of the mind from its normal level of activity and energy. Part of the mindfulness idea is being mindful of being mindful. So there's always that settling phase when we start meditating. There's that decoupling from the conscious mind. And a lot of people perhaps fail to understand that settling process is part of it. And if there's too much attachment to the frustration of the settling process, you will go back and forth. The thoughts will still be compelling, but just be patient for those first 5 minutes of a meditation session. You will settle. You will get that detachment. You will create that space. So it's just about letting and trusting the process. You just keep breathing. You just keep removing the mind from thoughts. Bring it back to the breath and give the emphasis of your focus on the sensations of the body relaxing. You want to de-emphasize high-level activity and emphasize anything that shows you're slowing down and relaxing. That's why it's important to focus on the breath, because by letting the thinking process go and focusing on the breath, it's automatic that you will slow the thinking down, you will slow the breathing down, you will slow the metabolic processes down in the body. And that's why there's just that need of a gentle, very gentle discipline for those first 5 to 10 minutes of any meditation session. That's the settling phase. And never give up in the settling phase. Things do slow down, they will slow down. So we'll just sit for 60 seconds now, just breathing, just bringing the mind back to the breath. And all we need to focus on is just really noticing the breath going as deep into the abdomen as we can. When we inhale, the abdomen expands. Natural breathing, unforced. Okay, everyone, great. So just in your own time, a couple of long deep breaths, bring yourself back into your room and take that nice relaxation through the day. Enjoy. Very good.
That was absolutely lovely.
Cool.
Oh, I haven't done just that really simple one for such a long time, but every time I do it, just blows me away how quickly you can settle yourself into that lovely space.
Yeah,
Why don't we do it more? I'm going to do it every day from now on. Promise.
Do it, Sara. Do it. Good. Good.
Thank you so much, Josh. That was so good. And you know, if you are thinking about doing the mindfulness course with Josh, he's doing his last in-person one in Christchurch in a couple of weeks. So do feel free to come to that if you can, if you possibly can do it, because it's so wonderful. If you miss out on that and you still want to do it, he's going to be doing a live online version that's going to be coming up at the beginning of next year. So you won't miss it, but you can still get to spend some time with Josh and learn these wonderful ways of training our minds. Josh Roche, thank you so much. You've been an absolute pleasure, and thanks everyone else for coming today. If you've got any questions you want to ask, I'm quite happy to hang around for a couple of more minutes. But
yeah, sure, me too.
If not, have a wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you so much,
everyone.
Josh.
Appreciate your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye then.
Bye
Thank
now.
you.